Let's learn about selecting types of information sources. When starting your research, it's easy to feel like you're drowning in different types of information. On the internet or in our library catalog, you might come across newspapers, popular magazines, professional or trade publications, scholarly or academic journals, and books as well as ebooks. But what type of resource is most likely to have the information you need? This will depend upon your research question and scope. So why does it matter what type of source you use? To answer this question, let's look at the characteristics of a few of the main types of sources you might find during your research, and the type of research you might use them for. Researchers often break down sources into two main types: primary and secondary sources. A primary source is usually defined as a first-hand account of a topic, generally created by someone who had direct knowledge of the event or topic described and created during the time period being studied. Examples of primary sources include research studies, statistics, data, diaries, letters, interviews, art, maps, videos, legal and government documents, and even social media. Secondary sources analyze, interpret, and synthesize primary sources. These will typically take the form of books and academic journal articles. Let's start by looking at some of the characteristics of secondary sources. Print and electronic books vary in scope. They can be written for general, professional, or academic audiences, so it's important to evaluate any books you locate to make sure they're appropriate for your research. The publishing process for books also takes time, so they're not always the most current source of information on a topic. So when would you use books or ebooks in your research? Books are best used to find in-depth information on a topic, as well as background information that will help you understand your topic. They also help you find historical information. Now let's talk about another type of secondary source: academic or scholarly journals. These are sometimes called periodicals because they're released periodically, for example, monthly, weekly, or biannually. You'd use an academic journal to find specific research on a topic written by scholars in the field. The timeline to publication is often quicker than for books, so this is also a way to find recent scholarship. Many of these articles go through what is called a peer review process, in which an independent critical evaluation of the work by experts in the field takes place in order to assess its quality before it is published. So where can you find secondary sources? Books, ebooks, and scholarly journal articles can all be found through our library catalog and databases. But keep in mind that scholarly journal articles accessed through databases might look deceptively similar to popular magazine or newspaper articles. Periodicals can be popular, professional, or academic in nature, and which type you need will depend on the purpose of your research. Popular magazines and professional or trade magazines can be useful as primary sources. You can use them to find up-to-date information about current events and issues written by journalists or professionals working in a given field. They can also historically contextualize your research. Like magazines, newspapers are a good primary source of information on recent or historic events and issues. Articles tend to be short and to the point, and references are not usually included. To find newspapers and magazines, just like searching for books and scholarly journals, you can use our library catalog and subject-specific databases. You'll be able to tell what type of source you are looking at because they're labeled in a few different ways: periodical, magazine, for example. Scholarly journals will often be labeled in a database as peer-reviewed. See, for example, the peer-reviewed filter in the database Academic Search Ultimate. You can also find newspapers, magazines, and academic journals online through Google or Google Scholar, but remember that you can always request things we don't subscribe to via interlibrary loan. On the internet, it can sometimes be hard to tell if an article is scholarly, popular, or professional in nature. In this case, it's helpful to identify who the audience is. First, look at the title of the publication to see if it seems to be directed at a certain profession. Then evaluate the content of the magazine. Is it written for a general audience, or other professionals, or academics, for example? Finally, it's worth looking up the publication and authors as well. This can give you tons of helpful information. And, as always, don't hesitate to reach out to us at asklib@jhu.edu.